The most powerful force in the human experience has never been what happens to us, but rather how we choose to respond. In the space between stimulus and response lies the sum total of our freedom. This small, sacred pause, this momentary stillness, contains within it the entirety of human potential. The quality of your life is determined not by the events you encounter, but by the decisions you make in these fleeting moments of choice. Consider for a moment how rarely we truly pause, how seldom we create space between what happens and how we react. In today's world, reaction has become our default state. We are bombarded by circumstances, notifications, demands, and we respond instantly, automatically, without the dignity of consideration. We have surrendered the most profound power we possess, the power to choose our response. The ancient Stoics understood this principle with remarkable clarity. "We cannot choose our external circumstances," wrote Epictetus, a former slave who rose to become one of history's greatest philosophers, "but we can always choose how we respond to them." This insight, so simple yet so profound, has been echoed through the centuries by every person who has mastered the art of living. From Lincoln to Edison, from Helen Keller to Viktor Frankl, those who have transformed adversity into achievement have done so through mastering this singular skill, the ability to remain still when all around them is chaos. This stillness, this internal sovereignty, is not passive. It is the most active force you can cultivate. It is strength in its purest form. Consider the oak tree that bends with the storm, yet remains rooted. Consider the skilled martial artist who, rather than meeting force with force, channels and redirects it. True power is not found in impulsive reaction, but in measured response. The mind that is perpetually reactive is never truly free. It is captured by circumstances, held hostage by the immediacy of emotion, chained to the passing parade of external events. But the mind that has cultivated stillness, that has learned to pause, to reflect, to choose, this mind possesses a freedom that cannot be taken away. No prison can confine it. No circumstance can diminish it. No hardship can extinguish it. It carries within itself the ultimate liberty, the liberty to determine its own inner state. We are not born knowing how to create this space between stimulus and response. It is a skill developed through intention and practice. It is the highest form of self-discipline. And like all disciplines worth mastering, it begins with awareness, the simple recognition that in every moment, you have a choice. Notice how your day unfolds. When someone cuts you off in traffic, what happens within you? When your plans are disrupted, when criticism comes your way, when disappointment arrives at your doorstep, what is your immediate internal reaction? Most of us have developed patterns of response that occur so quickly, so automatically, that we mistake them for inevitable. "That made me angry," we say, as if anger were the only possible outcome, as if our emotional response were dictated by the external event rather than by our interpretation of it. This belief that our feelings are caused directly by outside circumstances is perhaps the most limiting belief a human being can hold. It places the control of our inner states in the hands of others. It surrenders the kingdom of our minds to the ever-changing world of external events. It is a form of abdication, a relinquishing of the throne of self-governance. The truth is both more challenging and more liberating. Nothing can make you feel anything. Between the event and your emotional response lies your thought, your perception, your interpretation. Change the thought and you change the feeling. Master your perceptions and you master your world. This insight is not new. It has been understood by the wise throughout history. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, wrote in his private journals, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." What has changed is the urgency with which we must apply this ancient wisdom to our modern lives. In a world that moves at digital speed, in a culture that rewards immediate reaction over thoughtful response, the ability to pause has become not just valuable but essential. The constant stream of information, the endless parade of stimuli, the cultural expectation of instant availability, All of these forces conspire to collapse that vital space between stimulus and response. We are conditioned to react rather than to reflect, to speak rather than to listen, to judge rather than to understand. But consider those you most admire, those whose wisdom seems timeless, whose presence brings calm to chaos, whose decisions reflect not just intelligence but profound understanding. These rare individuals have cultivated the art of the pause. They have trained themselves to create space where others see none. They understand that true power lies not in the speed of reaction, but in the quality of response. Think of Abraham Lincoln, renowned for his practice of writing hot letters penned in moments of frustration or anger that he would set aside, never to be sent. He understood that initial reactions are rarely our best responses. Or consider Thomas Edison, who, when his laboratory burned to the ground, destroying years of work, gathered his family to witness the spectacular fire, saying, "There go all our mistakes. Now we can start fresh." These were not merely optimistic personalities. These were disciplined minds that had mastered the art of choosing their responses. The quality of your life follows the quality of your thoughts. This is not motivational rhetoric. It is a law as reliable as gravity. Thoughts form the foundation of your emotional experiences. Emotions drive your actions. Actions, repeated, become habits. Habits form character, and character creates destiny. At the root of this sequence lies thought, the interpretations you assign to the raw data of experience. Most people live at the mercy of thoughts that arise unbidden, mental patterns formed through years of unexamined reactions. They believe what they think simply because they think it. They feel what they feel because they've always felt that way. They are like leaves blown by winds they cannot see, responding to forces they do not understand. But you have the capacity to step outside this automatic process. You can observe your thoughts rather than being them. You can question interpretations that create suffering. You can choose perspectives that empower rather than diminish you. This is not positive thinking. It is clear thinking. It is the recognition that in any situation, multiple interpretations are possible, and some serve you better than others. When faced with a setback, the undisciplined mind automatically generates thoughts of failure, unfairness, or helplessness. The disciplined mind, however, asks different questions. What can I learn here? What opportunity might be hidden in this challenge? How can I use this experience to grow stronger, wiser, more capable? These questions create a fundamentally different mental and emotional experience, which leads to fundamentally different actions and outcomes. Consider two individuals facing the same circumstance, the loss of a job. The first person thinks, "This is terrible. I'm a failure. I'll never find another position as good as this one." These thoughts generate feelings of despair and anxiety, which lead to scattered, desperate actions or worse, paralysis. The second person thinks, "This is challenging, but it may open doors I couldn't see before. I have skills, experience, and the capacity to learn. This is an opportunity to reassess what I truly want." These thoughts create feelings of determination and openness, which lead to focused, constructive actions. Same circumstance, different thoughts, different emotions, different actions, different outcomes. This is the power of mastering your inner reactions. This is the alchemy of mental discipline. The most successful individuals in any field have mastered this formula. They understand that circumstances are raw materials to be shaped by perception and response, not final verdicts on their worth or potential. They have trained themselves to pause in the face of challenge, to question limiting interpretations, to choose thoughts that empower rather than diminish them. This mental discipline requires practice. It demands vigilance. But the rewards are beyond calculation. Imagine moving through life no longer at the mercy of external events. Imagine maintaining your composure, your clarity, your sense of purpose regardless of what comes your way. Imagine being able to access your highest intelligence, your deepest wisdom, your most creative capacities even in situations that would leave others reactive and diminished. This is not an idealistic fantasy. It is a practical possibility. It requires only that you develop the habit of pausing between stimulus and response, of questioning automatic reactions, of consciously choosing thoughts that serve your highest good. This is the essence of mental mastery, the foundation of emotional intelligence, the cornerstone of a life lived with purpose and power. But how does one develop this capacity? How does one cultivate this stillness in a world that never stops moving? It begins with the recognition that your attention, where you place your mental focus, is your most valuable resource. More than money, more than time, more than energy, your attention determines the quality of your experience. And yet most of us give our attention away carelessly, allowing it to be captured by whatever shouts loudest, the latest crisis, the most recent slight, the newest distraction. The cultivation of stillness begins with reclaiming your attention. It requires developing the capacity to direct your mental focus deliberately rather than allowing it to be pulled in whatever direction external forces dictate. This is the essence of meditation, of mindfulness, of all practices that develop mental clarity and emotional regulation. Start simply. Set aside a few minutes each day to sit quietly and observe your breathing. Notice how your mind immediately begins to wander, to the past, to the future, to problems real and imagined. Without judgment, gently bring your attention back to your breath. This basic practice, repeated daily, begins to develop the mental muscle that allows you to choose where your attention goes rather than having it determined by habit or circumstance. As this capacity strengthens, begin to observe your thought patterns throughout the day. Notice how quickly interpretations arise in response to events. When something doesn't go as planned, what thoughts automatically appear? When someone behaves in a way you don't like, what story does your mind create about their intentions? Simply becoming aware of these automatic patterns begins to loosen their hold on you. The next step is to question these interpretations. Is this thought true? Can I absolutely know that it's true? How do I feel when I believe this thought? Who would I be without this thought? These questions, borrowed from Byron Katie's The Work, create space between you and your interpretations. They allow you to see that thoughts are not facts. They are mental constructs that can be examined, questioned, and if necessary, released. As you develop this practice of questioning, you begin to cultivate alternative perspectives. When faced with a challenge, you can consciously generate more empowering interpretations. This is not about denying reality. It is about recognizing that reality is multifaceted, and the facet you focus on determines your experience. A rejection becomes an opportunity to refine your approach. A criticism becomes valuable feedback. A delay becomes time to prepare more thoroughly. A loss becomes a clarification of what truly matters. These are not mere reframings. They are equally valid interpretations of the same events, ones that create emotional states conducive to effective action rather than states that lead to paralysis or despair. The ability to generate alternative perspectives is the essence of resilience. It is what allows some people to face adversity and grow stronger, while others face the same challenges and collapse. It is what enabled Viktor Frankl, in the unimaginable horror of Nazi concentration camps, to discover that everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. As you practice this discipline of pausing, questioning, and choosing more empowering perspectives, you begin to notice subtle shifts in your emotional landscape. Situations that once provoked immediate stress or anger now trigger curiosity. People who once seemed to push your buttons no longer have the same power over your internal state. Circumstances that once appeared as obstacles now reveal themselves as opportunities for growth. This is not a change in the external world. It is a transformation in how you perceive and respond to that world. And this transformation ripples outward, affecting every aspect of your life. Your relationships improve because you no longer react from old emotional patterns but respond from a place of clarity and choice. Your work becomes more effective because you access your highest intelligence rather than operating from stress or fear. Your health benefits because you no longer generate the corrosive stress hormones that come with perpetual reactivity. Most importantly, You begin to experience a sense of inner freedom that is unshakable because it is not dependent on external conditions. You discover that peace is not found in controlling your environment, but in mastering your responses to whatever environment presents itself. You realize that power lies not in changing others, but in changing how you relate to others. This shift, from seeking control outside to cultivating mastery within, is the essence of maturity. It is the journey from victimhood to creatorship, from reaction to response, from being done to doing with. It is the recognition that while you cannot control the cards you are dealt, you have complete sovereignty over how you play your hand. This sovereignty is not granted, it is claimed. It is not found, it is forged through the daily discipline of choosing your thoughts, your focus, your interpretations. It is developed through the consistent practice of pausing in those critical moments between stimulus and response and consciously selecting mental and emotional states that serve your highest good. Consider how this practice might transform your daily experience. You encounter a traffic jam that threatens to make you late for an important meeting. The undisciplined mind immediately generates thoughts of frustration, anxiety, perhaps anger at other drivers or the stupid traffic system. These thoughts create a state of stress, which narrows your focus, reduces your cognitive flexibility, and actually diminishes your ability to handle the situation effectively. But with the discipline of stillness, you pause. You notice the automatic thoughts and emotions arising. You take a breath. You remind yourself that your reaction will not change the traffic, but will definitely change your experience of the next 30 minutes. You consciously choose thoughts that create a different state. This delay is out of my control. I'll call ahead to let them know. Perhaps I can use this time constructively, to prepare mentally for the meeting, to listen to something valuable, or simply to practice being present. These thoughts generate a state of acceptance and adaptability, rather than resistance and stress. Same circumstance, different inner response, entirely different experience. Multiply this across hundreds of daily events, and you begin to see how mastering your inner reactions literally creates a different life, not by changing external circumstances, but by transforming how you experience and respond to those circumstances. This practice becomes particularly powerful when applied to interpersonal conflicts. Most relationship difficulties stem from reactive patterns, automatic thoughts and emotions triggered by the words or actions of others. He says something with a certain tone, and you immediately feel defensive. She forgets something you consider important, and you automatically feel unvalued. These reactions seem instantaneous, inevitable, beyond your control. But with the discipline of stillness, you create space between what others do and how you respond. You notice your interpretations. He's being condescending, or she doesn't care about what matters to me. You question whether these interpretations are absolutely true, whether there might be other explanations for the same behavior. You consider how you feel when you believe these thoughts and who you would be, how you would respond without them. This pause allows you to respond from wisdom rather than react from wound. It enables you to speak truth without attacking, to set boundaries without punishing, to address issues without escalating conflict. It transforms your relationships from battlegrounds where old patterns play out repeatedly to sacred spaces where growth and understanding can flourish. The mastery of your inner reactions is not merely a personal achievement, it is a gift you give to everyone in your life. When you move from reactivity to responsiveness, you create an environment where others feel safe, heard, valued. Your stillness becomes a sanctuary in which authentic connection can occur. This ripple effect extends beyond your immediate relationships to every interaction you have. The colleague who approaches your desk with a problem finds not a stressed, distracted presence but a centered, attentive one. The cashier having a difficult day encounters not another impatient customer, but a moment of genuine human acknowledgement. The driver who cuts you off experiences not a horn and a gesture but space to correct their mistake. These may seem like small things, but they are not. They are the substance of our shared human experience. They are the difference between a world of reactive machines bouncing off each other in perpetual conflict and a world of conscious beings responding to each other with awareness and choice. This is the true significance of mastering your inner reactions. It is not merely a path to personal peace and effectiveness, though it certainly is that. It is a fundamental contribution to the quality of our collective experience. It is one of the most profound ways you can serve others, by bringing a regulated, responsive presence to every encounter, rather than adding to the reactivity that dominates our culture. The discipline of stillness creates not just better individuals but a better world. It is both deeply personal and inherently universal. It begins with the recognition that in each moment you have a choice, and that this choice matters far beyond your own experience. This brings us to an essential truth. The mastery of your inner reactions is not separate from the discovery and expression of your purpose. In fact, it is a prerequisite. For how can you hear the quiet voice of calling beneath the clamor of circumstance if you are perpetually reactive? How can you maintain direction through the inevitable challenges of any meaningful pursuit if you are at the mercy of emotional highs and lows triggered by external events? Purpose is not found in frantic activity but in aligned action. And aligned action flows from a centered state. When you learn to master your inner reactions, to maintain clarity and choice regardless of circumstances, you create the internal conditions necessary to discern and pursue what truly matters to you. Consider the greatest achievers in any field. What distinguishes them is not freedom from obstacles but the capacity to maintain focus and effort regardless of setbacks. Thomas Edison's thousands of failed experiments before inventing a workable light bulb, Abraham Lincoln's repeated electoral defeats before becoming one of history's most significant presidents, J.K. Rowling's multiple rejections before finding a publisher for Harry Potter. In each case, what made the difference was not the absence of circumstances that might have justified giving up, but the presence of an inner discipline that transformed those circumstances from reasons to quit into opportunities to grow. This is the paradox of stillness. It is the foundation not just of peace but of achievement. It is the quiet center from which effective action emerges. It is the soil in which purpose takes root and flourishes. As you develop this discipline, as you learn to create space between stimulus and response, to question limiting interpretations, to choose thoughts that empower rather than diminish you, you begin to access deeper wisdom about what you are here to do. You hear intuitions that were previously drowned out by the noise of reactivity. You recognize opportunities that were invisible when your attention was captured by stress or fear. Purpose is not something you invent. It is something you discover, often gradually, through the process of living with awareness and intention. The stillness you cultivate becomes the clear surface of the lake in which you can see your own reflection clearly, not the distorted image created by ripples of reaction, but the truth of who you are and what you are here to contribute. This discovery rarely comes as a single dramatic revelation. More often, it emerges as a growing sense of alignment. Moments when you find yourself fully engaged, using your unique gifts in service of something that matters to you. These moments are signposts, indicators of direction rather than final destinations. Following these signposts requires both clarity and courage. The clarity to recognize what truly calls to you beneath societal expectations, and the courage to pursue it despite inevitable challenges. Both qualities are nurtured through the discipline of stillness. For clarity comes not from more information, but from the capacity to discern signal from noise, to distinguish between the authentic voice of calling and the countless other voices, telling you what you should do or be. This discernment develops as you learn to quiet the reactive mind and listen to the deeper wisdom that emerges in stillness. And courage, the willingness to act in the face of uncertainty and challenge, grows as you develop confidence in your ability to respond effectively to whatever circumstances arise. When you know from experience that your inner state is not at the mercy of external events, you become willing to risk more, to step beyond the boundaries of the familiar, to pursue what calls to you even when the path is not clearly marked. This is how purpose unfolds, not as an abstract concept, but as a lived experience of alignment, engagement, and contribution. It is the natural expression of who you are when you are not controlled by reactive patterns. It is what emerges when you create enough internal space to hear your own truth and enough internal strength to act on it. And here we find the ultimate gift of mastering your inner reactions. It returns you to yourself. It strips away the layers of automatic response that have accumulated over a lifetime, revealing the authentic being beneath the conditioning. It allows you to live from your center rather than your periphery, from essence rather than image, from truth rather than habit. This return to authenticity is both profound and practical. It manifests as a natural congruence between who you are and what you do, between your values and your actions, between your gifts and how you use them. It appears as moments of flow, those experiences when you are so fully engaged in what you're doing that time seems to alter, when effort feels like expression rather than exertion. These moments of alignment, whether they occur in creative work, in meaningful service, in deep connection with others, or in moments of solitary contemplation, are not incidental to the good life. They are its substance. They are what we truly seek beneath all our pursuing. And they become increasingly available as you master the art of stillness, as you learn to respond from your center rather than react from your edges. This mastery is not achieved once and for all. It is a continuing practice, a daily recommitment to creating that vital space between stimulus and response. There will be times when old patterns reassert themselves, when the reactive mind temporarily regains control. These are not failures, but opportunities to deepen your practice, to bring awareness to areas that still hold unconscious triggers, to extend the discipline of stillness into ever more challenging territories of your life. What matters is not perfection but direction, the consistent intention to pause, to question, to choose. Over time, this intention creates new neural pathways, new emotional habits, new patterns of response that gradually replace the old reactive ones. What once required conscious effort becomes increasingly natural. The space between stimulus and response widens. The capacity to maintain clarity and choice in the face of challenge strengthens. And as this capacity grows, you discover a freedom that no external circumstance can grant or remove. The freedom to determine your own inner state, to choose your own response, to be the author of your own experience. This is true sovereignty. This is unshakable strength. This is the power that lies in stillness. In a world that values speed over depth, reaction over reflection, noise over silence, this discipline of stillness is both countercultural and essential. It is a quiet revolution, a peaceful reclaiming of your inherent power to choose. It begins with a single pause, a single breath, a single moment of awareness between stimulus and response. In that moment, that space of stillness, lies all, the difference between a life controlled by circumstance and a life created by choice. Between the reactive existence most settle for and the responsive living you were born for. Between the unconscious patterns of the past and the conscious possibilities of your true potential. This space, this stillness, is available to you in every moment. It requires no special circumstances, no perfect conditions, no freedom from challenge or difficulty. It asks only your awareness, your intention, your consistent practice. It is the doorway to a quality of living that transcends the ordinary, not by escaping reality, but by engaging it fully, consciously, choicefully. The journey begins now, in this moment, with this breath, with the recognition that between what happens and how you respond lies the freedom to choose, with the decision to claim that freedom, to cultivate that space, to master the art of stillness. For in that mastery lies not just peace, but power. The power to create your experience rather than merely endure it, to shape your destiny rather than submit to it, to live from your deepest truth rather than your oldest conditioning. This is your birthright. This is your potential. This is the invitation that life extends to you with every breath. To pause, to choose, to respond from your center rather than react from your edge. To discover in stillness a strength that no storm can shake. The choice, as always, is yours. It waits in the space between stimulus and response. It waits in the stillness.